Hi, everyone. This is Josh Corwin, physician assistant at the Functional Medicine Center in Durham, North Carolina. Today, we're going to do a quick presentation to review health insurance terminology to hopefully help you to understand your health insurance coverage a little bit better. And we're also going to review our negotiated rates for lab testing to help you decide if you would like to use our negotiated rates or if you would like to use your health insurance to pay for your lab testing. Hopefully this video will help you to choose. But how do you choose? It's important to us at the Functional Medicine Center that you know it is totally your decision whether to use your health insurance or whether to use our negotiated rates for lab testing. We have this in our patient handbook, and our providers and our administrative team will try to repeat this to you often, but once you've decided to bill your insurance for a lab test, we're not able to reverse this and use our negotiated rates even if your insurance denies all the fees. It's also important that we mention that we cannot tell you if your insurance is going to cover your testing in advance. There are simply too many plans and too many nuances to each plan, and we can't possibly know how every single one is going to work. We're more than happy to give you an invoice that has test codes and has CPT codes on it, and you are welcome to call your insurance company before making your decision and ask them about all the prospective tests that you're about to have. But we at the Functional Medicine Center don't have the resources to call your insurance or check your insurance on your behalf. This is something that we ask that you take care of on your own. At the Functional Medicine Center, we are thrilled to offer our patients negotiated rates for lab work. We have negotiated thousands of tests with Labcorp and Quest to take the guesswork and the complicated part out of the equation. Basically, after you and your provider within the Functional Medicine Center have decided which tests are needed, you receive an invoice from the Functional Medicine Center for your lab work. If you review the pricing and you're okay with it, you pay this invoice directly to the Functional Medicine Center. We then give you your lab order to take with you to Quest or to Labcorp, and that's it. There's no authorization needed. There's no denial from your insurance. There's no guessing about what your costs are going to be. You're not going to wind up getting a bill from Labcorp for thousands of dollars. Quest is not going to say to you, hey, this one's not covered, or we can't do this one, it might not be covered. You also are not going to have to sit on hold trying to fix a problem with a bill from Labcorp Quest, and on and on and on. There's no arguing about the medical necessity of your testing. Our negotiated rates offer you total transparency as well as competitive pricing. Our website has some sample pricing listed, but we have spent hours and hours trying to make sure that our prices are equal to or less than pricing you're going to find anywhere else, including the negotiated prices that some of the large health insurance carriers have worked out with Labcorp. This slide has a real-world example of why we encourage our patients to use our negotiated rates. On the left, you see an explanation of benefits from Labcorp for a Blue Cross commercial plan, quote unquote, good coverage plan from December of 2023. And on the right-hand side is a partial invoice for what our prices are for these same tests over here. So let's go line by line for some of the important ones. We have on the top is 84481, which is a test code for T3 free T3. The Blue Cross price was $12.28. Our negotiated rate is $3.44. The next line down is CPT code 84439, which is a test code for free T4, also a very important thyroid test. Negotiated rate was $6.54 within Blue Cross. Our price is $3.44. Further down, we have 070104, the next line down, which is CPT code 84482. That one was not covered at all by Blue Cross. The allowed amount was 0, and there's a code saying this test is not covered. And further research as to why tells us that Blue Cross is currently only covering reverse T3 in women who are pregnant. If you have chronic thyroid disease but you're not pregnant, or if you're a man with chronic thyroid disease, Blue Cross is currently covering reverse T3. So Labcorp turned around and said to this patient, hey, this one wasn't covered. You owe us $116.56. Our negotiated rate, free and clear, is $19.88. Continuing down, we have CPT code 86376, which is a TPO antibody, a very common thyroid antibody marker, one of the two that we look at frequently at the Functional Medicine Center. Labcorp's negotiated price with Blue Cross is $17.15, and our negotiated rate is $7.50. 86800, further down, a thyroglobulin antibody, the other thyroid antibody that we commonly look at for measure as a marker of how well our treatment is working to mitigate thyroid antibodies. Labcorp's pricing is $18.76 with Blue Cross. Our negotiated rate is $4.38. TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, the one test that every provider, even in traditional family practice orders, our negotiated price is $3.13. Vitamin D 25-OH or 25-hydroxy, 82306. The list price is $250.27 for this. Blue Cross's negotiated rate with Labcorp is $21.46. Not bad until you consider that our pricing is $13.75. And we can certainly keep going here, but we'll just quickly look at homocysteine, which is also a test we fairly look at in the functional medicine realm. Our negotiated rate is $15 even, and Labcorp's pricing with Blue Cross is not covered. That's the line 483090. List price is $201.97, and this came back with a rejected, we're not covering it based upon the diagnosis code here. So had you gone with your insurance on this test, you'd be paying anywhere from double to triple the rates after your insurance processes it, and you'd be faced with dealing with a rejected claim and most likely having to pay the full list price to Labcorp for all the rejected codes, which are the ones that you see with the red exclamation marks on the right hand. Now we're going to move on to talk about health insurance terminology. The first important term is your premium. The premium is the monthly amount that you pay to have health insurance. Whether you use your insurance or not, whether you're totally healthy or whether you are in the hospital for an emergency situation, you pay this money just to have insurance, just like you pay your car insurance carrier, whether you use the insurance or not. That's your premium. The next term we're going to cover is deductible. A deductible is a set amount of money that you have to pay for all of your insurance care, whether it's a primary care visit, an emergency room visit, a surgery, lab testing, x-ray, CAT scan, etc. A set amount of money that you have to pay before your insurance company pays anything. If you have a deductible of $1,000, that means that before your insurance company pays anything, that you will have to pay $1,000 first. This is above and beyond your premium. Again, the premium is just the amount of money that you pay each month to have health insurance. Your deductible is a set amount of money that you have to pay before your health insurance company pays anything. Really important to know that if you have a family plan or if you have a couple plan, that sometimes each member can have their own deductible and sometimes it's a shared deductible. Really important to know that if you and your spouse or if you and your child each has their own deductible, that just because you have met your deductible of $1,000, that still means that if your partner or if your child needs to get Medicare, they may have their own deductible of $1,000, or it may be that there's a shared deductible. Very often, family plans will have a shared family deductible that is twice the individual deductible. This means that if you signed up for health insurance as an individual and the plan had a deductible of $1,000, this usually means that if you sign up for the family version of that plan, that the family deductible is typically twice that, or would be $2,000 in this example. But again, this is specific to each plan. It's also worth mentioning that the overwhelming majority of healthcare plans do not have deductibles as low as $1,000 for an individual or $2,000 for a family. They're typically in the range of $2,500 to $5,000 or even $8,000 to $10,000 for an individual and more for family plans. So it's really, really important that you know this when you go in, that just because your insurance may cover something, that does not mean that they're going to pay for it. It just means that they say, yes, this is a benefit that is available to you, but you still have to pay the deductible before we're going to pay any money out of pocket. And if you go back to the case of our previous screen for the Labwork, you may wind up paying 3 times the amount by using your health insurance than you would have if you used the negotiated rates. The very next thing we're going to talk about is coinsurance. Coinsurance means that after you have met and paid your deductible, that there's a split or a breakdown of a percentage of the bill that you are responsible for and a percentage of the bill that your insurance company is responsible for. So if you've gone to get an MRI or you've gone for lab work or you've gone to a hospital and the bill is $1,500 and you have a deductible of $1,000, you're going to pay that $1,000 towards your deductible. And at that point, there's $500 left. That $500 is subject to coinsurance, where you and your insurance company are collectively insuring that $500. And there's usually a split on your insurance card that's notated something like 60/40, 70/30, or 80/20. That means that of that $500 that's left in an 80/20 plan, you would be responsible for $100 or 20% of it, and your insurance company would be responsible for $400 or 80% of it. If the breakdown said 60/40, you would be responsible for 40% or $200 of that $500 bill that's left, and your insurance company would be responsible for 60% of it or $300. Next item on our list are copayments. A copayment is an amount of money that's set by your insurance carrier, usually something like $25, $50, $75, or $100 that you pay every single time you go to an office visit or to a specialist visit. This amount is usually separate from your coinsurance and it's usually separate from deductible. And so what can happen is if you need to go to an in-network provider for a few different visits, you will wind up spending a few $100s on copays, but you have not spent anything towards your deductible or your coinsurance. And so when you go to get lab work done, you are still required to pay deductible for that amount. This is different from plan to plan, and sometimes copays do count towards your deductible. Sometimes they don't. And this is very important that if you are considering using your health insurance for lab work at a functional medicine center, that you understand if your copays that you've seen for in-network providers count towards your deductible, because you may have already spent a few $100s elsewhere and think, oh, my insurance will cover this, but in fact, they're not going to cover any of your lab work, as it still is going to go towards your deductible. The last item on our list is out-of-pocket max. This is sometimes abbreviated OOP, standing for out of pocket. Out of pocket refers to the most amount of money that you can possibly spend for your medical care during the calendar year or during the length of time that your policy covers. It's usually a 12-month policy, but sometimes it starts in the middle of the year. Out of pocket is usually the sum, or adding up your deductible plus your coinsurance, and that usually counts towards the out of pocket that you could possibly spend. This means that if you have a deductible of $1,000 and you're on a 80/20 plan and your out-of-pocket max is $10,000, this means that you will pay for any care that you get in the year. You'll pay $1,000 towards your deductible, and you're going to pay 20% of all the rest of your care for an additional $9,000. After you've spent $10,000 on your care, your insurance company will then pay 100% of your care for the rest of the policy term. Another important note here is that if you have a family plan, you may have a family maximum out of pocket of something like $10,000, but your plan may say that the most that any one family member can spend is $5,000 or $6,000. This means that if you have a family member that needed care and they hit their out of pocket of $6,000, you would still be responsible for an additional $4,000 for other family members before your insurance is going to pay in full or pay 100% for you and the other family members.